Roger Belanger's future was unlimited when the 18-year-old pulled on the sweater of the Pittsburgh Penguins in September of 1984. Chosen with the great Mario Lemieux to take the worst team in the NHL to a Stanley Cup, the first-round draft choice was a hard-shooting, hard-skating prospect.
They were telling Roger, don't shoot the puck hard. The coaches, you're going to hurt our players, our goalies.
But 5 years later, Belanger's boyhood dream of being a rich, successful NHL star lay in tatters. 3 back operations had rendered him unable to work, let alone play hockey. Belanger was broken financially and emotionally by his nightmare. Today he feels abandoned by the Penguins, his agent Don Meehan, and his union.
Everything revolved around hockey, and now everything is away from hockey. And I can't skate, I can't do anything now, so it's basically out of my life.
Belanger traces the onset of back pain to one date. It was a team scrimmage on September the 26th, 1984. Belanger got his first warning of back trouble the day after he was slammed into the boards. He told team trainers he felt a sharp pain in his lower back. Ultrasound therapy was tried, but when the pain persisted, a lumbar spine CT scan was done. The report, sent to Penguins team doctor Charles Stone in September of 1984, revealed that Belanger had 2 bulging discs in his lower back. The condition of those discs, it said, may be of some clinical significance in view of the patient's young age. If clinically warranted, further studies appear to be appropriate. The Belangers say no one bothered to inform them of the diagnosis. It was 5 years before they finally learned what the diagnosis had been in 1984.
He had telephoned us one day, and he told us that he had a back problem. You know, and he said he hurt his back, and I was a little worried about it, and I had phoned Don Meehan and told him, and that was the end of it.
While Don Meehan wouldn't talk about the Belanger case with CBC, his letters to the Belangers indicate he didn't learn of the original injury or the CT scan until 1989. But the Belangers insist Meehan knew about the continuing back problems and never requested any medical information on Belanger's back from the Penguins, even when he underwent surgery in '87. The Belangers say that their Toronto agent and lawyer failed to protect their rights under the standard NHL contract. Specifically, they say, Meehan never told them about the time limits that govern injury arbitration hearings or that can disqualify disability insurance benefits. Potentially, those oversights cost Belanger hundreds of thousands of dollars when his career ended.
For a person like myself or my parents, we don't know anything about, and it's not our obligation to find out these things. It's, again, my agent to advise me that, well, you shouldn't go down. You have so many games. If you play this many, you won't be, if something happens down the road, you know, you won't be eligible. No, nobody ever told me that.
The kid is young. The kid's dedicated himself to hockey. He's not sophisticated. The agent is it. The agent is really who the kid looks to.
Back pain is one of the most controversial subjects in medicine. It can accompany a severe back trauma, or it may not appear till years after the injury. 30% of the public have bulging discs, for instance, and many don't even realize it. What is clear, however, is that in a high-risk occupation such as pro hockey, players like Roger Belanger who experience pain and disability with disc problems require greater vigilance from the training staff. But after Belanger reported the onset of his back pain, the Penguins simply held him out of the first 2 games of the 1984 and '85 season. Even then, Pittsburgh merely put the young player on the standby list, not on the injured list. For NHL purposes, that meant there was no official record of Belanger's back injury ever occurring.
I was told that basically I was going to outgrow that, and again, me being first year, and not in a position to argue with professionals, doctors, this, whatever. I didn't really say too much about it, and I kept going.
Fellow Pittsburgh rookie Doug Bodger remembers the medical staff on the cash-starved Penguins.
Well, it was not what I expected. I thought, you know, it was, you know, going to be, you know, first-class organization. You think in the National Hockey League, you think, you know, the way you're treated is you know, first class and everything.
Having been told he'd outgrow his back problems, Belanger threw himself into his rookie season. His hard hitting drew attention from the fans and from the press early on. But the physical style caught up to him in November. Belanger had to miss 19 games over the next 3 months with knee or ankle problems.
Everything was really weak because of my back. because your back obviously controls your whole body, and my knee was a vulnerable spot, and I just happened to get hit, and I sprained it, and I was out for probably a month. And then not soon after that, I hurt my other knee.
Despite Lemieux's fine rookie season, the Penguins lost with numbing regularity, and the crowds deserted the team. So in March, after chalking up just 3 goals and 5 assists in 44 games, Roger Belanger was returned to junior hockey. This in spite of NHL rules that forbid teams from demoting injured players and thereby denying them their NHL salaries. Of course, the Belangers still had no idea how badly hurt Roger was. They only knew his $75,000 a year salary was now being reduced to $40 a week.
I really don't know how they were disappointed or what they were so upset about when everybody else was so happy. You know what I mean? So.
But they saved some money, too.
Well, yeah, we can basically nip that in the bud and say that's what basically they were trying to do was save some money.
Belanger had no way of knowing that this meant he'd never play an NHL regular season game in a building like Maple Leaf Gardens. Instead, he buried his pain and his disappointment and reported to Junior A, determined more than ever to prove he belonged in the NHL. But a summer of rest and conditioning for his back disintegrated when he reported to the Penguins camp in September of '85. Belanger played 1 exhibition game that fall at the Montreal Forum against the Canadiens. Despite the pain in his back, Belanger was awarded the game's first star. But the next day, he was sent to the Penguins farm team in Baltimore. Belanger never wore an NHL sweater again and never collected the bulk of his contract negotiated by Don Meehan.
And then that's when I phoned Don Meehan, and I said, you know, there's something wrong here. Like, Roger was a first rounder. He was first star of that game. Or they said he was the best player on the ice, and they're sending him to the minors. Like, can you look into that? And that's what he did, eh?
And what did he report back?
Well, he got back to me and said that Eddie Johnson said there was nothing wrong. It's just that Roger was his play was inconsistent.
It's just like he kind of fell off the earth. That the team wouldn't, you know, we said, "Where's Roger?" And they said, "No, we don't know where he is." And so it was kind of pretty much hidden in the back door.
By the time he returned home to Welland following his 3rd pro season, however, it was clear Belanger's back pain was getting worse. The back problems had reached a critical stage. This time they would have to believe him about the pain he was enduring.
And I was walking like a 90-year-old gentleman, and I was crouched over 90 degrees and couldn't do anything. And at that time, my dad and I just said, enough's enough. We got to get some help here.
But to let it go to the limit where it went with Roger, then there was nothing else to do but operate.
In Pittsburgh, doctors told the Belangers the only solution for Roger's disc problem was an operation. In a memo, the Penguins trainer Steve Thomas admitted to club officials that the damage in Roger's back stems from an original injury which occurred on September 26, 1984. The Penguins then paid for the operation on Belanger's back.
Did you try to get a second opinion? Did your agent suggest perhaps a second opinion?
I didn't know I had an agent at that time. Again, I'm not hearing from him. That's basically why my dad and I just picked up and did it ourselves.
You're saying that to be a guy who would go out and get a second opinion would be considered a disturbance?
Oh, my God. That would be unheard of. Are you kidding? I could never go out. And not when I was playing. I couldn't go out and get a second opinion. That never happened.
In April of 1987, doctors in Pittsburgh removed most of the disc injured back in 1984. Belanger says he was assured he wouldn't need further surgery for at least 5 years. The Penguins then sent him home for the summer to rehab on his own without a special rehab program. All the while, they left him available to any club that would shell out $35,000. There were no takers for Roger Belanger. But surgery and the summer were not enough to save his career or his dreams. By September, Roger Belanger would be under the knife for a second time in 5 months. Within a year, his career would be over.
The Pittsburgh Penguins, Don Meehan, and the NHL Players Association declined to be interviewed for these stories. Tomorrow, part 3 in the series at 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. That is sports from the National Sports Desk. Here are the rest of